Hello, everyone, and welcome to Auto Asphyxiation. It's Lark.
And Kimberly.
That's right. And today we are live once more in, what's the name of this studio?
New Level Podcast Studios in Clifton, New Jersey.
That's right. And that's in the lovely county of Passaic. We got to one day talk about Passaic, right?
Yes.
But we're not talking about Passaic today. Today we are talking about the lovely city of Essex. Lots of people, when I say city of Essex, they go, what are you talking about? Essex is a county. Well, I'm always talking about the whole idea of New Jersey as city. But another thing I talk about is New Jersey, or actually Essex County as a city, because it has 22 separate municipalities. I think somebody said 23 at one point, but 22 official municipalities, and each has its own school district, its own fire department, its own police department. It's madness. And just so you guys have an idea of how much this doesn't really, how strange this is. Because a lot of times people go, you're from Los Angeles, you don't understand. We have to have all of these cities because you're a West Coaster, you're insane. I'm like, okay, what about Philadelphia? Philadelphia, the city of Philadelphia is the same size as Essex, and it has one school district, and it's called the city of Philadelphia. So I like to use that as an example, and this is really like harmful because having all of these cities creates, it creates so many things. I mean, what are your thoughts about this, Kimberly?
I think that it's a way to hyper segregate everybody. You can see that, there's quote unquote nicer areas in Essex County and then the more low income areas. And I wonder how Essex County would look as a city, and with all of that tax income from the more upper class areas being distributed to the lower class areas like Irvington, East Orange, Newark, things like that, and how it would really benefit the whole of Essex County.
Well, the problem and the challenge for me is this. Some communities are more resourced than other communities. And if you think about places like even Newark, and we think about how much money they make commercially and how it doesn't go to the residents, it goes to the county, which they get to distribute it any way they want. So essentially you have a situation where you have legal segregation, and they have a thing, I call it, I always call it city rule, but it's actually home rule. Home rule. I always mess that up, and everybody from New Jersey is like, what are you talking about? In the United States, they have a thing called states' rights, and states' rights is a way to essentially, as we see now, practice racism, segregation, bias. I know a lot of people used to think, well, state rights just means the states have control and have no. Actually, as we see now how state rights is working nationally, town rule or home rule is working the exact same way currently in New Jersey. And I think something is very interesting is how hegemony or power views these 22 cities or 22, I call it neighborhoods, as one city. Ways that you can tell this. If you use your map function and you try to go anywhere in Essex County, it doesn't say the city. It says Essex County.
Yes. Which
shows that people at the top don't view this as separate entities. Also, the automated license plate readers, that was through a grant from 17 of the suburban cities in Essex. So it was interesting how they could work together. They can work together to essentially, and those automated ALPR readers, the reason why those are a challenge and why they are so dangerous now is they're using a program called Flock. And Flock is being used by ICE to chase people down, hunt people down. But you know what? The reason that they were able to do that or get that ACLR out there was because they kind of used this fear of the other. Like, people from Newark could come over here, and we need to be able to catch them. People from East Orange could come over here, and just in case you don't know the code that I'm speaking in, if you don't live in New Jersey, that's just black people, okay? That's what they mean. They could come over and they could rob us in Montclair and in Glenridge. We can't just have that. And sometimes it means Latinos, but often it's that the scary part is like black people. And it's interesting how they can join together to essentially call it spy on people,
Yeah.
violate their rights, practice segregation.
Yes.
But they're all, oh no, we're separate cities, so that's why we can't do certain things. And I think the thing that's really interesting is that owing to the climate crisis, we just actually had a conversation about the snow in the last, and all the cities can't clean up the snow. If you are in New Jersey right now, you are still walking through snow because each of the little fake cities can't, and you know what? I want to be very clear. We're not even saying that people are incompetent. It's just
not at all.
No, not at all. We're not even saying you're incompetent because the cities are too small to actually clean up the snow. Their budgets aren't big enough. I know in where I live, the council people aren't even paid money. There are many towns in Essex County where your council people aren't even paid a wage. They're essentially volunteer gigs.
That's a bamboozle.
Now, keep in mind, how is somebody with a volunteer gig, which means they have a whole full other job, going to clean up this, going to essentially get together and do the administrative tasks to clean snow, to clear the road, and here's, the salient point is this. Owing to the climate crisis, we're going to need to plan differently. And I know that the New Jersey Department of Environment, what did they say about how they're supposed to plan?
The New Jersey DEP explicitly states, that the climate impacts require local and regional planning, and that decisions around zoning, redevelopment, and open space in one community affect neighboring ones. A city of Essex would help to align the government with the actual geography of the climate risk in Essex County.
And to me, it's becoming to the point where having these fake cities, and I will continue to call it, I will continue to say I live in the city of Essex. I refuse I refuse to play this game because people with power don't play this game. And actually, us having 22 separate cities is literally killing us. We can't plan for, the storms. We can't plan for our master plans. We all have different master plans. And then we go, oh, so should we, how do we do the storm drain? How do we do all of these mitigation and adaptation? How do we navigate that? And we have to literally go city by city, 22, and then get all of the boards to approve these plans. Go ahead.
It's a very typical situation. It's too many cooks in the kitchen.
No, and it is.
Nobody knows what's going on.
Exactly. And then we think about in regards to the how can I say this, in regards to the bus. In the buses, apparently, if you take the bus in the city of Essex and the city of Passaic, what happened to the bus stops?
The bus stops are still all covered with ice. People are standing out in the middle of the road to still catch buses. There was a young man actually the other day, I think last Saturday, that was struck and killed by a car while he was waiting for a bus trying to catch a bus in Newark.
I was covering an election on Thursday, and I had to get to the county office in Newark. Essex downtown. And what happened was I almost fell trying to cry. I had to leap over this gigantic block of snow. And then I had to glide through, I think it was glide through King Boulevard because it was so the snow situation. And I want to explain to you how bus stops work in Essex County and in New Jersey. Each bus stop is not, people think, oh, that's New Jersey Transit putting out the bus stops. That's New Jersey. Actually, no. New Jersey Transit doesn't decide where the bus stops are. The various municipalities decide where the bus stops are. And they also decide whether to clean them. Now, the bus stops that did get cleaned were on the county roads. So essentially, unless you're on a county road, and even that, they didn't clean the actual bus stop.
Yeah.
Because essentially the towns and the private businesses that are around these bus stops are in charge of cleaning them. And as I told you, the buses, No, as I was talking about in regards to, what was I saying? I kind of lost my train of thought.
The bus stops, New Jersey Transit doesn't decide where they go. The separate towns decide where they go.
Yes. So essentially, you have people who have volunteer gigs who have to go to their own jobs, having to plan snow removal for a bus stop. And we have private businesses that are like, well, people who ride the bus in New Jersey aren't my clients, aren't my customers, so I don't care what happens to them. And this is a huge problem because I don't know about you, but I've been on the bus and they're crowded. Typically, the bus is crowded with women, with Black people, with Latino people, with women, primary caregivers of women from all cultural backgrounds, but essentially everybody takes the bus except for white middle-class men. And actually, white men don't take the bus. Even the ones that are working class would rather ride their bike than get on the bus, because in New Jersey, in so many places, and this does not count for New York, but in places that are culturally, because this is urban, all of New Jersey is urban, but in places that are culturally suburban, the bus is the transport of last resort.
Yes.
So you have this situation where having 22 cities, you're really kind of creating a situation where people on the bus are essentially the last people that get taken care of in regards to this situation. Oh, and let's not forget people who are disabled, who also are having a very hard time and not being viewed as important they're secondary. Go ahead.
There's in my neighborhood, there's people with wheelchairs riding down the middle of the road because they can't get down the sidewalks, because I think I mentioned last week that there's a whole swath of sidewalk on my block that I'm sure whoever lives there is elderly or disabled and just can't get out to clean the sidewalk. So there's still just as much snow there. Almost, how long has it been since the storm?
I think like 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's been 2 weeks now, and there's, and that's not to say, obviously there's something going on there, but wheelchair users, people that use scooters, of which there are quite a few within my neighborhood, are not able to go down the sidewalk safely because of the lack of cleanup. And that's also something that's a systemic failure. Like, there needs to be a safety net for our elderly and disabled neighbors that live alone or live with other elderly and disabled people that are not able to clean up the snow effectively. Like, it's a city sidewalk. That should be a city thing that they take care of.
Yeah, and so many of our areas, kind of like what my area does in order to avoid that, it's just we don't have sidewalks at all. So essentially, if you don't have a car, why are you here? Why are you walking around my neighborhood when I have a home and a car? You deserve to die. I mean, that's literally what's going on in some neighborhoods, and it is really. I mean, I think about. I'm very into LPE, which is law and political economy, and one of the parts of law and political economy is how the law empowers. I just like people in power. I want to say hegemony, but I keep saying that, and I forgot. We're not in political economy class. But the law and the political economy is essentially how the law empowers people who have money, who have status, and how it disempowers people who don't have as much wealth, who don't have as much of a social standing, and people who are on the right, people who are racist, etc., they use the law to their benefit.
Absolutely.
But a lot of times for people who are more progressive, I don't even want to call it like we're progressive. I want to call it left, but I also want to call it common sense. Those of us with common sense, we're often not using that framework. We're not viewing how the law, and the thing is that having home rule is in a way a kind of a law that solidifies oppression, economic oppression, and essentially is deadly for our communities. It's deadly for creating pro-social connection. It's deadly for planning for the climate crisis. It's deadly for being able to plan. Think about our if you want to do a bike lane, you can't do it unless you can approve it in each 22 municipality. So what we have now is oh, look, Montclair has a bike lane. It's two blocks.
Yeah.
What exactly? How am I supposed to do anything because I can just ride the bike or in a circle around my house? What is that? That is like useless.
And it just seems like it's this fragmentation, like, so every one of those 22 municipalities has its own street plan designs. And it ignores the fact that, like, I live not even 2 blocks away from the border of Newark.
Yeah.
And I'm in a quote unquote separate city, but I can walk over to Newark and there's a completely different street planning design and different, like, climate crisis design and everything like that. And it's failing to recognize the fact that we are a region and that these 22 municipalities often bleed in with one another. Climate crisis does not respect borders. Life does not respect borders in that way. Like, that's real talk. Like, life does not respect borders in that way if I can walk 2 blocks and be in Newark.
Yeah, and I also think about how it impacts fair housing. Okay, you have the situation where, well, a lot of times we in all of us in urban planning and economics, we talk a lot about exclusionary zoning. Oh, exclusionary zoning. That, when you have single family homes, which, like, a house, that you live in with, like, maybe your mom and dad, traditional, like, Happy Days house. And then we have apartments. I don't know, just talk about it. We have apartments, and we have condos, we have cooperatives. But, the thing is this. If you have 22 cities, you can dismantle all the exclusionary zoning that you want. You're still going to have exclusionary zoning because you have 22 municipalities. And everybody's kind of like, we could just get rid of exclusionary zoning. Getting rid of exclusionary zoning in Philadelphia might work. Getting rid of exclusionary zoning in Los Angeles might even work. But getting rid of exclusionary zoning or, these single, like, family home zoning in New Jersey, it's not going to work because you have 22 municipalities. And this is something that is, it's one of the kind of, like, cool things that people like about New Jersey, because they're like, oh, look, even though I have a neighborhood, I can't pay the council people, I pay my mayor $1, but we have our own city. And then they kind of go, well, I don't understand. Why are my taxes so high? And I was like, you're paying for racism and sexism, and that's expensive if you're not rich.
Yep. That's another thing, too, is that people in New Jersey constantly bitch about the high taxes without realizing that they are being bled dry because their little tiny town of 5,000 people has to have its own police department with its own administrative fees, has to have its own school district with its own administrative fees, it has to have its own EMS with its own administrative fees, plus the planning boards and everything like that. Taxpayers are being bled dry by the hyper segregation that happens in New Jersey. And Essex County is a great example of that.
And the economies of scale. I have brought this up several times, just so folks know here. I'm actually a trained economist. I know you're like, she doesn't look like an economist. Well, economist looks economic, people who are economists look various ways. And I am an urban critic and an economist. And I'll tell you something. New Jersey could save oodles of money on the whole property taxes if they combined every single one of these counties into one city. And I understand that people claim that economies of scale don't work in New Jersey. That's not a thing. And I was like, that's really interesting that math doesn't work in New Jersey. Clearly, I don't understand how it can be a different planet, because where I'm from, economies of scale make things cheaper. So I'm confused that Montclair is in the budget deficit, East Orange is in a budget deficit, and I'm sure if we went searching, there are some other school districts that are also in interesting situations. And the reason why they're in these interesting situations is because they essentially are trying to run a city for free.
Yeah.
They're running for a city with I don't know, I would call it mutual aid cities. I'm not sure what's going on there.
Basically, because we're also not taking taxes from these huge developments that are going up. Like a lot of these urban development zones have that. This is what happened in Harrison with the big luxury buildings that went up. They have 30 years where they don't have to pay taxes and or allow low income housing in their developments. So, you're leaving all of that money, all of that revenue that a county or a city needs to generate on your ordinary citizens rather than these multi-billion-dollar developers that are coming in.
I'm confused at why people don't seem to understand, but not people. Our politicians seem to not understand what a community benefit agreement is. It's called a CBA. So when I'll put it this way, I'll use Los Angeles as an example, because Los Angeles is what people like to use as an example for a really good community benefit agreement, even though personally I was there when it happened and I wanted it to be better. I always wanted it to be better for us, for our community. When they built Staples Center, and now I think it's called the Crypto Center.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
When I was a little kid, it was called the LA Sports Arena. And then it became the Staples Center, and then it became the Crypto Auditorium. Anyway, they use that location as an example of a great community benefit agreement. It included affordable housing. It included jobs for the community, not job training, jobs for the community. It included making sure that you hired small businesses and construction people who are from the community. So like if you had like a construction business and you were living in that community, it was in South Central Los Angeles. Not only was South Central, it was East South Central. So they call it the East Side. So those of you who are not Generation X and not from Los Angeles, when you hear like the hip hop people and they're like, the East Side, West Side. I'm from the west side of South Central, and that was taking place. The east side of South Central is Compton, Watts. The west side of South Central is like Lamar Park, Ladera Heights, View Park, some parts of Inglewood. All right, so I'm confused at why they don't have community benefit agreements in this. Why do we just kind of like, we're just like, I think the thing is that people in New Jersey, they have such low self-esteem because they're not in Manhattan. So they're just like, oh, you want to date us? Yes, you could do anything you want to us. You could do anything you want. Like, of course, come and just like, yeah, I have no requirements, nothing. You don't want to come to Manhattan. You just want to, I'm like, there's nothing wrong with New Jersey.
No.
New
Jersey's a great state.
It's a great state with great people. The best people from New York come from New Jersey. And I say that, that's not even a joke. That's what I truly think. Like some of the best people from New York, all the people who actually work, and that don't engage in extractive capitalism, that don't engage in just stealing. The people who do all the hard work are from New Jersey. So I don't understand this whole like essentially anytime someone with power comes, just saying okay to whatever. This is really interesting, and I think about things like participatory budgeting. And participatory budgeting is when you have a budget. And instead, because like say we have like a transit budget, and typically what happens is the politicians kind of like decide what happens. But the thing is that politicians are not, we're not customers of politicians. We are citizens, and they are our representatives. And so what participatory budgeting does is actually make this really explicit. So essentially, you know what the budget is, and you have the community come. And you have the community come and have a conversation about what they want. I think, I'm not sure. I think it's NJTTF or is doing something like this, but I also know participatory budgeting Seeds, this program called Seeds. And essentially you have the community come and they decide what they want. Like they go, oh, we would like a bike lane. Okay, I'm like, that's kind of a leading thing. We would like a bike lane on Bloomfield Avenue. And they would kind of go, okay. And then somebody else would be like, oh, I would like a train, a light rail on Bloomfield Avenue. And once the people in the community vote for that, then they kind of put it out to a vote. Okay, do you want a bike lane or do you want a light rail on Bloomfield Avenue? And once the people vote and they go, we want a bike lane, then essentially that is what the budget is for. We have direct democratic process. Since we don't have that with our representatives, we have a lot of we don't have that direct, actually we do with, but we can actually start participating in regards to where the money goes. And the only way that's going to be useful is if we all start working as a unit. And maybe the thing is this, is that maybe if people who are, I don't know, politicians are like the old way, they can just kind of continue to do that. But for participatory budgeting purposes, we make sure that it's county. It's county rather than city. Because I don't know how anyone can literally survive or be live in New Jersey and only stay in one city.
It's not possible, because even just to like run errands, I have to leave East Orange very frequently.
Of course you have to leave East Orange, because I mean this is the thing I just don't understand. I know I do understand. But they want to make it so that they under-resource certain neighborhoods. I'm going to say this, the county has under-resourced and exploited East Orange, Irvington, Newark. These are neighborhoods that are not getting their fair share, have been stolen from, and essentially now, because of redevelopment, and what redevelopment is, to kind of just give a quick understanding, is when they essentially have people who have lots of money, developers, business people, come to your community, and instead of money going to schools, it goes as tax breaks to these developers. So essentially, you're being stolen from. When you go to East Orange and you see like this big, wonderful like project, and they've gotten all kinds of redevelopment money, that's money that they're stealing from people. And if you let them do that, you let them build these buildings, and you don't have a community benefit agreement, you are essentially, again, taking advantage of communities that were taken advantage of owing to redlining, owing to all, from the past. And you're just re-abusing people, and then you're acting like we're helping them because, their neighborhoods are, this is another reason that it's very important when people talk about your neighborhood and call your neighborhood a piece of crap, whether it be the state of New Jersey and people talk about you, or whether it be East Orange, whether it be Bloomfield, whether it be whatever. If somebody talked about your neighborhood and they have money and they have power, what they're trying to do is get you to agree that your neighborhood is a piece of crap. So if you agree your neighborhood is a piece of crap, then of course you need help. You need help from Madison Square Gardens. You need help from J.P. Morgan. You need help from Prudential, because you've already signed on to the agreement that you don't. Everyone's incompetent, and this place is a piece of crap. So of course we need to give it over to people, and of course, and they love when you talk about people in the public sector. So yes. Oh, the public servants are pieces of crap. The DMV, they're all pieces of crap. The teachers are horrible. The people who live here are horrible. And then you essentially are doing the work for J.P. Morgan. You're doing the work for Prudential, because then they go, oh, you know what? You're a piece of crap. Whatever. I heard you dating this person right here. How about you date me? Just so you know, I'm a horrible human being, but I'm telling you that early, but I got money. And I can give you guys some jobs. The job I will give you will be, they'll give you job training or security guard. They're not going to give you any of the nice jobs. You go to Prudential, and I'll tell you, no one who looks like me is at Prudential. Oh, I'm sorry, we're security. We can work as security, okay? We can work in the parking lot. We can work in concessions. But we're not working in the marketing department. Okay, they got one, diversity person.
Yeah.
They got one diversity person. And
to make sure they got it covered.
They trot her out. Oh, I shouldn't say that, because I know people get mad at me. I'm not trying to insult you. I'm just saying. You know what I mean? I'm just making a point, okay? So you have to understand the power of media and what media does in order to, what power and hegemony does when they take media and they essentially badmouth your city, and you think that they're helping. They're being watchdogs. They're not being watchdogs. They are essentially the Marines of gentrification.
Yeah, they're starting a narrative. They're starting a narrative so that they can come in and they can gentrify. And even a city like East Orange that has a lot of programs to prevent gentrification is still vulnerable to it, because there's large swaths of land where there used to be houses or project developments and things like that. And that's where the developers are going after.
Exactly. And so we can't have, and I think this is so important. And I think that we need to just really imagine a future. And a lot of people, when I talk about city of Essex, they have to say, they get kind of uptight, because they are very, very kind of touchy, like, oh, Montclair, oh, Bloomfield, we really care about our city. We care. But the thing is,
you can still care about your neighborhood.
Exactly. You can still, it's your neighborhood. You can care about your neighborhood. But the thing is that we are one city. We are one unified city. And we have to start working that way because power, people with money, I hate having using the terms like the oligarchy, but the oligarchy, the people with power, they look at Essex as one city. Not only that, they look at New Jersey as a handmaid to Manhattan. And that is a narrative that they sell. And the thing is this. New Jersey, from its beginning, if you look at the waterfalls that power the plants, well, saying when New Jersey first started, and like long time ago in the beginning of the country, 250 years ago, New Jersey was always a place that did the industrial work, the manufacturing work.
What New Jersey makes, the world takes.
Oh, that's true, huh?
That's a saying. That's a saying in Patterson. That's a saying in Trenton. That's a saying in Newark. That's a saying in Camden, because all of those places used to have like really big factories and like textile development and things like that. So that's a saying. What New Jersey makes, the world takes. It's very, very true.
And this is true, and I'm not trying to rag on like Manhattan, but Manhattan has become a mall.
Yeah.
Essentially, they're just a gigantic mall.
Well, especially after 9/11, a lot of the financial stuff moved out of Manhattan and moved to New Jersey. A lot of the data centers and things like that that used to be in Manhattan they got moved into New Jersey for the relative safety that the swamps of Secaucus provide, as opposed to, Manhattan that sticks out like a sore thumb and it makes itself a target.
That's right, and this is something that is really important. So if New Jersey saw itself as not a handmaid to Manhattan, but as a formidable force that is an important part of this nation, an important part of the East Coast, and a center of commerce, not that I care about commerce, but a center of commerce and humanity, we could advocate for ourselves better, and we can also kind of like look at ourselves like, wow, think about what we can do, how much power we can have against the banks, against finances, if New Jersey, with its history of labor, history of unions, history of fighting, because people in New Jersey do like to fight.
Maybe.
a little bit like to fight. Think about what we could do as one city, one unit. Because think about it. Manhattan, of course you got Greenwich Village, you got the Upper East Side, and those are all identities that it can still retain.
Yeah.
But you're still one unit, and that is people, we are people power. And that's what I think about, we're not going to talk about Mejia today, because we don't know if Mejia has won or not in regards to District 11, but how she got to where she got to in District 11 and making it to a situation where, just Tom didn't just win, was because of pluralism, because of working together. Yes, we don't all see this eye to eye on every single thing. Some of us don't like those people, some of us don't like these other people, but the thing is that together, we can be powerful. We can be horrible at home. But together as a unit, we need to be, ready for the future. We need to be ready to fight fascism for now and the future. And what is your dream for 2050, Kimberly? I know it's kind of weird to be like, just jump to that. We're running out of time.
My dream for 2050 is a city of Essex that has robust public transportation in the same way that Manhattan does, where you don't have to have a car. It's not required to have a car to live in the city of Essex. Where mothers and elderly people can get around even in the winter time, where there's not snow constantly everywhere. It's a place where people can find what they dream and live that dream, and where it's not just something that we're talking about. It's not just something that's achievable in Montclair or Glen Ridge. It's something that's achievable in Irvington, in East Orange, in Newark. That's really what my dream is for the city of Essex by 2050.
That's right. And I one of my dreams for the city of Essex is to have social housing, a situation where we decommodify housing and make it so that housing is something, that housing really is a right. Because a lot of times people kind of go, well, we don't want to have, we don't want certain people. You know what? If you let people access housing, allow accessing to housing, you allow people to have that kind of, I know I'm going to be here for the next 10 years, 20 years, they're going to be great neighbors. A lot of people think, oh, rent control. What if, we don't have rent control? Because then you'll have, if you don't have rent control and you have a high turnover, you're going to have more dangerous neighborhoods.
That's the truth. And it's amazing to me that people can't see that somebody who is down on their luck, if they're given the human right of housing, a job, medical care, that persona or that patina falls off of them because they have self-respect, they have self-esteem, they know that they're not alone, they have community. People blossom in those environments.
I mean, even if I put it this way, I'm just even like looking at like myself personally, if I know I'm going to be somewhere, I'm going to act a little better. If I know I'm going to come back somewhere, I'm going to act better. And this is something that just natural, organic thing. And I think that this is, we have a city of Essex that includes everyone, that's powerful, that like what you said, you don't have to own a car. Because, we talk a lot of times in New Jersey and a lot of times in the city of Essex, people talk a lot about the environment and care about the environment, and they're driving their cars, which is like the primary driver of the climate crisis.
Yeah.
And we don't have to have that because we actually have enough people. We're also the most dense state. We have enough people that we can actually have a robust public transit system that rivals Manhattan.
And largely the framework is already there. These are places, Bloomfield Ave is a place that used to have a trolley that went up and down it. Ampere Parkway by me was a place that used to have a trolley go up and down it. So there's a lot of framework and a lot of things that are already in place that can be retrofitted to make these things become a reality. This isn't a pipe dream at all.
Exactly. And with that, we're going to wrap up the show. We need for you folks to subscribe and to listen and to watch. And who we're going to thank? We're going to thank our podcast company here that they have been doing an amazing job. And there are next city. No, what's it called?
New Level Podcast Studios in Clifton, New Jersey.
That's right. So with that, have a great rest of your day, folks.
Thank you so much for listening.